Welcome to Launchpad, the unique radio show and podcast that celebrates new book releases and the authors that created them. Now, let's take off with your host, Grace Sammon.
This is Launchpad. Thank you for joining us for episode 45 with authors Zelly, Ruskin, Christine Gunderson, Jan Heidrich-Rice, and Sheila Athens. It probably hasn't escaped your notice that I'm not Grace Sammon. Hi, I'm Mary Helen Sheriff, and it's my honor to guest host for Grace today. We are so happy to have these amazing authors here. They're all part of a marketing cohort run by Lainey Cameron. Lainey is a fellow book marketing expert. She runs the 12 Weeks to Book Launch Success program and is the co-host of the Best of Book Marketing podcast. Learn more about Lainey at her website, laineycameron.com. Now, let's dig in. I have 4 talented novelists with me today. First, I have with me Zelly Ruskin, author of Not Yours to Keep. When a Newborn Goes Missing, Lives Collide, Uncovering Secrets That May Define or Destroy a Family. Next, I have Christine Gunderson, author of Friends with Secrets, in which a seemingly perfect mom is threatened by a secret from her past and must join forces with the most imperfect mom at school to expose an epic scandal before it destroys her life. Then we have Jan Heidrich-Rice, author of Secrets of the Blue Moon, in which a grieving woman battles her own personal ghost as she chronicles the haunted history of a quaint Georgia town. And finally, we'll meet Sheila Athens, author of Nina Lee is Seeing Things, about a middle-aged travel writer dealing with panic attacks and seeing visions of JFK. We are so honored to have you with us, and I also want to thank all of you who are tuning in. If you are watching this live in Bookish Road Trip, please ask questions and share your thoughts in the comments. The authors and I will pop in to answer them as we are able. On behalf of Grace Sammon and myself, welcome again to Launchpad. Sheila, let's get started with Nina Lee is Seeing Things. What can you tell us about it?
So it's about a 56-year-old travel writer who goes to Cumberland Island, Georgia. And Cumberland Island is significant because it's the location where JFK Jr., not JFK, JFK Jr. Married Carolyn Bessette in a private paparazzi-free wedding. They pulled it off before anybody knew about it. And significantly, next month, July 16th, is the 25-year anniversary of their deaths, which is, hard to believe it's coming up. But Nina Lee travels to Cumberland Island to write an article commemorating the 25-year anniversary of their death. And she's kind of down on her luck, needs to get over her panic attacks and some grief going on in her life. And she happens to run into JFK Jr. while she's there. Not sure if he's a hallucination, a ghost, whatever. But he says he desperately needs her help. And it turns out that Nina Lee needs his help too.
Well, that sounds intriguing. I'll be curious to hear more about that relationship. And what about you? Jan, tell us a bit about Secrets of the Blue Moon.
I will. I don't know if it's going to show or not. There we go. Secrets of the Blue Moon doesn't come out until September, but I'm excited. No, it'll be out September 6th. So I'm starting to talk about it and I'm excited about it. It's also about ghosts and also about a southern area, but I promise, Sheila, I wasn't stealing from you. It's very different. This one, it's a ghost story and a mystery rolled into one. But it's told within the confines, or the, not confines, but women's fiction. It's a woman's journey, and it is about a journey of a woman who battles ghosts when she's chronicling the history of a small town in Georgia. The town is called Lake Gardner. It's fictional and it's almost its own character. It's got eclectic shops. It's on a lake. It's very charming, and its residents are very quirky. They love to share their superstitions and suspicions, and they love their little ghost lore. And they especially love to try to figure out what happened on the night of a blue moon several years ago when 2 women were killed in one of the houses in the residence. So Marnie, my character, flees to this town to get away from her dying marriage and finds herself in the middle of all this other drama and ghosts that want to talk to her and have her help them. And so she has to decide whether to run back to her safety of her own home or to stay and solve the mystery and learn to heal and grow again.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. The former lover of Nancy Drew and me is intrigued. Awesome. Okay. So let's move on to Christine. I'd love to hear something about Friends with Secrets.
Well, I like to call Friends with Secrets Sex, Lies, and Minivans. It's a story about 2 moms at a private school. One is perfect, one is less than perfect. And when a new basketball coach shows up at their school, one of the moms has to decide if she comes forward and tells what she knows about him to protect the girls at school, or if she protects her secret. Because if the secret becomes known, it will destroy her family, it will destroy her marriage, and it will destroy her life. So it's about moms, it's about private schools, it's about the dangers of secrets, and it's also just about motherhood and the many, many, many demands of motherhood. And also, in addition to all that, it's hopefully funny. So that is Friends with Secrets.
Wow, that sounds like some high stakes going on there. Awesome. And finally, last but not least, Zelly, tell us about Not Yours to Keep.
Thanks, Mary. And I'm so excited to be here with y'all. This is Not Yours to Keep. It is domestic suspense. It is about Billy, who is an infertile adoption specialist who lives in Boston, her husband who's keeping secrets, and a woman who lives on the other side of town who's haunted, not real ghosts, just haunted by childhood abuse, who's desperate to recreate a family with the 2 people she regrets losing the most. And that would be the baby she gave up for adoption and the man of her dreams. There is a kidnapping. There is chaos. There is a link that is discovered between them all. And in order to save the baby that is kidnapped, they have to use this link and figure it out. But it turns out Billy also goes missing. So they hopefully will solve all this before it's too late. It's about intergenerational impact of the choices we make as mothers, and how that trickles down, which is sort of a theme I like to write about.
I love that. So Zelly, I want to dig a little bit deeper with you first. Let's talk a little bit about adoption and fertility issues. What inspired you to tackle this sort of messaging, and what do you hope readers walk away with in that regard?
I tackled this. It's not what there's a photo that I found in my personal life that had nothing to do with this, that I just was so curious about it. In the moment, it didn't even matter what was really happening. It was just sort of like there was a plot there. And I tied it into my previous career as an adoption consultant.
Oh, interesting.
Which was my first job, also my most favorite job. I loved the work that I was doing. And I always wanted to tell the story in a way, I wanted to talk about adoption in a way that people don't normally get to hear, outside of the stereotypes from normal books and movies. And, I felt I had a different perspective as the adoption consultant, but I also worked closely with couples who wanted to adopt and birth mothers. So I really wanted to tell that side of things, and give it that sort of yeah. So that's where it all came from. I just sort of tied all those things together to create a mystery.
Well,
Yeah,
it's very neat that
suspense.
you could bring your background and your professional background into your book and kind of give it a unique slant that we're not
Right.
used to hearing about. So that's really awesome.
Right. So the other thing that happened is that after I left that job, I discovered I had some fertility issues. So I guess the what if of the story came from what if I had known this when I was working in the field? What would have happened to my morals and ethics? So that's
Awesome.
my book.
Jan, Secrets of the Blue Moon also deals with fertility issues and that your main character is grieving from some miscarriages. Can you tell us a little bit more about the role miscarriage plays in Marnie's character development?
Sure. I think Marnie Marnie wants it all and doesn't want to have to feel apologetic about it. And she's had 2 miscarriages, and she's been married 7 years. And she was a little reluctant to even try to have children initially, and her husband pushed. But now that she's had lost a couple pregnancies, she's determined, I'm going to do this again. And he's the one that's reluctant. And it just brings to light a lot of their incompatibilities or their problems. And Marnie is just struggling. She's grieving. And instead of trying to really deal with it head on, she runs away, as many of us do. And conflict, she doesn't like conflict. She's determined to heal, but she's not sure how. And so and in the midst of this, it also happens during the pandemic, which, as you know, every agent and editor in the world said, get that out of there. But it happens during the pandemic. She loses her job on top of all this. And she is really wondering, what am I here for? What's my purpose? What can I do to keep moving forward and stay a positive person? So it is a part of her journey to overcome this and move forward.
Yeah, it sounds like you've created a character with some issues that a lot of us could relate to. So, and miscarriages seem to be a topic that we still aren't completely comfortable talking about. So it's nice to have books that can bring up that conversation and maybe make that a little bit easier to have. So great. So the characters in Jan's and Zelly's books want very much to be mothers, whereas the Friends with Secrets centers around people who are mothers who are perhaps not entirely fulfilled by their motherhood. What can you tell us, Christine, about motherhood in your book?
I started writing this book when my first child was born, and I had quit a very fulfilling, very demanding job to stay home with him. He is now heading off to college in the fall. And I started writing because I thought I was going to lose my mind. And so the book explores the sort of damned if you do and damned if you don't situation that women often find themselves in, right? We give up our careers to stay home with our children, and we miss the stimulation that we had in our jobs, or we keep working and then we feel guilty because we aren't always constantly home with our children. And so we explore that. We explore the things that we give up when we become mothers. And it also explores how to remain yourself and not lose yourself and become buried underneath the weight of motherhood. While also, I hope, celebrating with humor a lot of the funny, joyful things that make motherhood the amazing, rewarding experience that it is. But it sort of explores the yin and yang. One of these women stays home. The other woman just gave up her career to stay home. She was actually fired when she was on maternity leave from her job as a television anchor. And it sort of explores the tension between the two and how to find your place as a mother while not losing your place as a person and an individual.
Yeah. Back to that, I think I see a connection between yours and Jan's with the we can't have it all. Nobody can have it all. I mean, that's part of the issue with life. I heard once you can't have it all at once, but maybe you can have it all one at a time. Right. So kind of always liked that idea. So Christine's character, Nikki, is missing her former career in television. But we have Nina Lee is Seeing Things. Our main character is a travel writer who finds her career threatened by an upstart editor who fires everyone over the age of 40. Sheila, do you have experience as a travel writer? Why did you choose to make that Nina's career? And let's talk to me about ageism in the workplace. What inspired you to tackle that?
So, my career in corporate America was I was a vice president of human resources.
Okay.
So, I oversaw recruitment teams. I oversaw more layoffs than I care to remember. I heard people say, "Oh my gosh, you can't lay me off. I'm 59 years old and no one will ever hire me again," which was, of course, heartbreaking. So I'm very aware of the ageism in the workplace. And the reason that Nina Lee is a travel writer is that I needed to get her onto Cumberland Island. Kind of the impetus for the book was as I was deciding what I would write next, I knew I wanted something a little bit kind of otherworldly. And Cumberland Island is the first island in Georgia once you leave Florida. And for many years, I lived in Jacksonville, Florida. I've since moved to Amelia Island, Florida, which is the island right next to Cumberland Island. But anyway, so I wanted to write a book that was a little bit otherworldly. Wasn't sure what I was going to write. Was driving down I-95 one day, and there's a sign to Cumberland Island. And if you see a sign, if you think of Cumberland Island and you live around here, you always think of JFK Jr. because his wedding was there. And so I thought, I wonder if his ghost ever goes back to Cumberland Island. And, I'm not even sure I believe in ghosts. I've never made a decision on that topic. But that's kind of like the what if, and I knew I couldn't write from the point of view of JFK Jr. because, I know nothing about how to live as a Kennedy. That's not the world I grew up in. And I write women's fiction. So I needed a character who could interact with him. And I needed that character to be on Cumberland Island for a reason. I guess it could have been a guest in the hotel there. But it seemed to make sense that she was a travel writer.
Perfect. I in another life, maybe I'd like to be a travel writer. So
Me too.
That's a fun job to give your characters jobs you might like to have. So another of the books we're chatting about is also set in Georgia. Jan's book, Secrets of the Blue Moon, is book 1 of the Lake Gardner series, and it centers around a small southern town. And you mentioned earlier that Lake Gardner is not a real place. Is it based on a real place? Do you have experience with small town southern living? What kind of things are we exposing in Secret Through Fiction? Give me the goods.
Okay. Well, I do. It is based. I live near a town in the metro Atlanta area called Ackworth, and it's on a lake.
Okay.
And it's a charming town. It's been through lots, but it's on the up and up. And I really missed it when the pandemic was in place, and I missed it. And I thought I might base a book there. I grew up in Michigan, so I sort of thought I would base my book on a small town in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been in Georgia for 30 years. Okay. And as I was writing, and I was feeling a little bit like an imposter if I tried to write as a Southerner, but my characters kept saying, something, we're Southern. And so you've been here 30 years. So it's a little bit maybe the New South, but the town is small and charming. It's based on a real town. I was missing it during pandemic, like I said, and it also one of the whys or what happened in the book. I was feeling very fortunate that I was skating through the pandemic. I was retired. I didn't have to report to work. I didn't have anything really horrible happening in my life. And I know some people had some horrendous difficulties. And so I was trying to think maybe I could place a character in this town. And then on top of that, you may remember, you may not, but on Halloween 2020, a blue moon occurred. A full moon. It's not really blue, but it's a full moon. And it's the second full moon of a month period. It's very rare, and it's very, very rare on Halloween. Happens every 19 years. So, of course, I went down a rabbit hole and was looking at, do crimes happen more? They do during a full moon, so maybe during a blue moon. And I found this story, and I kind of put all these things together, this small Georgia town, this woman grieving, this blue moon, and some weird things, and here we go.
All right. I love it. I love the Southerner by choice. How about that? Instead of by birth.
Yeah.
I'm in Virginia, so I got the, anyway. Okay. So another book with some high stakes and ghosts and intriguing mysteries is Not Yours to Keep. Zelly, talk to me about the tone and tension of your novel. We've got a missing baby, and then a woman. Is this like a page-turning whodunit or more character-driven? Would you think of books or movies that maybe have a similar feel to them?
Yes, but am I supposed to tell you now? I have to think about all these things. It is, it has some feeling a little bit more like, Little Fires Everywhere.
Okay.
It's got a little bit of that darkness. It is told in multiple POV, so it is very much about the characters and their journeys. There's so many books out now that are starting to deal with the topic of adoption, but my favorite one to count this through is Rhea Frey's Not Her Daughter. It's very much like that. So it's a women's fiction journey, but it is a suspense story.
Okay, so you're like straddling the genres then. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so we got secrets in your book. And I think we've also got some secrets and Friends with Secrets. I think the title might give that away a little. Yeah, it can be tricky to talk about secrets without giving away spoilers, Christine. So I'm not going to put you like on the spot to tell us give us that. But does the book setting in DC and the political aspirations play into this secret? Can you give us a little hint? Are there real life scandals that you've used for inspiration? Can you kind of tease something out of you?
Well, I live in Virginia, so I'm in the DC suburbs, and so the book is set here in the DC suburbs.
Okay.
And the husband of one of the main characters does have political ambitions, and he's running for office. And so I worked on Capitol Hill many, many moons ago, and so that informed a little bit of it. I was a television anchor. That informed a little bit of it. So it's always interesting, as I listen to my fellow authors, how so many different parts of who we are as people in our past lives and our past careers sort of get married together in the topics that we choose to tackle in the books that we choose to write. But I've lived here in the DC suburbs for, well over 20 years. And this is home now. And so this is where I chose to set the book. So I like to say it's, sex lies in minivans on the shores of the Potomac. And it's probably similar in tone to Big Little Lies. So it tackles some serious topics, but hopefully with humor. And there is definitely some suspense in it. So hopefully it's a book that also makes you turn the pages quickly as you try to figure out who did what, to whom, when, and where. So, and that's all I'll say. I don't trust myself to say more without giving away some essential part of the book that will spoil it for readers.
We don't want to spoil anything. That's no fun. So we got Scandals and Secrets are also part and parcel of the Kennedy story. Sheila, talk to us about these visions. And Nina Lee is seeing things. Why JFK Jr.? What's the inspiration for this?
Well, like I said, I was kind of thinking, what's my next book going to be about? And I wondered if his ghost ever came back. And when you talk about kind of mining our past, if you're somebody who's about my age and you're female, I can almost guarantee you had a crush on JFK Jr. So I think that was part of the interest. They were and still are the closest thing we have to royals, and so I kind of wanted to explore that a little bit, and even though at first Nina isn't sure if he's a hallucination because she has just started having panic attacks and she's being treated for some mental health issues. She does eventually find out he's a ghost, and I just he helps her. She needs his help. It kind of all weaves together, and I'm very proud of the fact. Speaking of the mental health issues, I'm very proud of the fact that many reviewers have complimented how I handled the mental health issues. And like Christine has said, even though I deal with some serious topics, it also has some funny moments as well. So
good. It sounds like you've done a nice job balancing that.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, all the books today have sounded amazing. I know my TBR list has grown, and I can't wait for each of these to come out. I'm sure our listeners will agree. Thanks to everyone who joined us today. We've been joined on our panel with Zelly Ruskin, author of Not Yours to Keep. If you want to hold your book up, Zelly, everyone can see the lovely cover again. Christine Gunderson, author of Friends with Secrets. Jan Heidrich-Rice, author of Secrets of the Blue Moon, and Sheila Athens, author of Nina Lee is Seeing Things. If you are watching this live in Bookish Road Trip, please feel free to leave comments and questions. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. We'll also put links to all the authors' web pages so that you can check them out and keep track of when the books are available to purchase. You can catch Grace and reruns of Launchpad on Authors On Air Global Radio. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. Goodbye.
Thanks, Mary.
This episode is copyrighted by Grace Sammon and Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. Thank you for visiting with us on Launchpad.